Well, I hope everybody's enjoying the feast. Please eat up, especially the veggies and the pizza, since that obviously does expire in some way. We all have been trained in what we do, whether by our parents growing up, whether in school by our teachers, in our jobs by our employers. We all learn how to do things. And most people don't simply pick something up and say, oh yes, I know exactly how to do this. Usually there's some sort of training involved. Some people can be really finical when it comes to training. Some people are verbal, some are auditory, some are hands-on, or maybe some combination of all three. And when it comes to that aspect of how do people learn best, one method that anybody can use, regardless of what it is you have to teach somebody, is called the EDGE method. EDGE is an acronym. Explain, demonstrate, guide, and enable. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, is the EDGE method, and how, regardless of what it is you have to train, or whether you have a lot of experience in training other people, something to keep in mind as a way to do this, especially if you're trying to teach somebody else who then has to go on and teach others that may not have the same training experience you do. So let's look at this. Explain, demonstrate, guide, and enable. EDGE. The first one is explain. If you are going to teach somebody how to do something, they need to have an understanding of what it is you're going to teach them about. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be how to ride a bicycle. Now, when you go to explain how to ride a bicycle, you don't need to explain exactly how the gear works and the ratio and tension on the spokes, things like that. You don't need to get in over their heads or anybody's. What you need to do is explain exactly what it is you want them to know how to do. That way, they'll have time to think about it and process it and come to a better understanding. So for instance, if I was to simply just explain how to ride a bicycle, I would say you would stand the bicycle up, you would grab a hold of the handlebars, either both hands or one hand, depending on the size of the bike and the size of you. Swing your leg over, or maybe across the middle, depending on how the bike is. But now at this point, do you know that the person knows how to even get on a bicycle? They could be standing on top of the front tire and the seat's over there. So the important thing when you go to explain is make sure you understand, or that they understand, the entire situation. But the important thing is that you're explaining it to them. You're not asking them to do anything yet. All you are doing is giving them a little bit of understanding, getting them more comfortable with it. You know, if you were to hand somebody a gun and say, okay, go score, a perfect 300 or something like that, they're not going to have any idea. But if you can explain the parts of the gun, what they do, how they work, it's the same thing with a bicycle. Explain to them that you're going to be sitting on the seat, the pedals are down here. It may seem obvious to some people, but to a child, they may have no clue what's going to happen. So explaining things really gives them that basic understanding, and it makes them feel more comfortable. The next part is demonstrate. At this point, you wouldn't say, okay, now I've explained everything, get on that bike and ride. Why don't you go win the Tour de France? No, it's never going to happen. So what you're going to do now is now you're going to demonstrate. Now that you've talked them through it, you're going to show that you're going to hold the handlebars and you're going to be next to the seat as you try to explain, and you're going to come over the top, and you're going to put one foot on a pedal. And you're going to now be able to demonstrate that the foot you want to put on a pedal is not the pedal that's all the way at the bottom, but the pedal that's all the way at the top, so that way when you push on it, you're going to gain that momentum, and that way you can then get up on the bicycle. Now, depending on the age of the child, the skill level, etc., they may have training wheels, so they've got some sort of assistance. But now you're demonstrating. Now they're going to piece together in their minds, he said to do this, and no, now I see what he means. Yeah, I really need to swing my leg up high to get over that bar. Girls have it easy. They usually have a nice low bar. And that's when the boys start saying, why can't I have a bike? Which actually nowadays, there's a lot of bikes are being made that way. They're sort of universal. But now they're going to start putting two and two together, and yet you still haven't asked them to do anything they're not comfortable with. But in their mind, now it's taking a step farther. They could even mimic your actions, but without actually having to do it. So there's no chance of failure yet, which is always a big concern for any of us. So you've explained, you've demonstrated, now you're going to guide. Now you're going to help them go through that whole process. You're going to help them maybe by studying the bike and help them move their leg and help them move their hand where it needs to go. That way, they still have that, they're still in that comfort zone. They know what they're doing is the right thing to do. And maybe you're even going to hold on to the handlebars. You're going to hold on to the bike. You're going to put a hand on them. In this case, so that way they feel more comfortable. Obviously, if you're at work teaching somebody how to do something, you're not necessarily holding their hand, putting your hand on their back, things like that. Just in this situation, that's part of the concept of guiding them. So now you've explained, they've worked it through their mind, you've demonstrated, maybe multiple times if necessary, you've guided them through the process. Now you're going to enable them. They have their bike. You're going to give them opportunities to ride that bike. You're going to give them opportunities to do things. And you're not simply just going to leave them alone at this point. You're giving them these opportunities to do things, but letting them know, I am going to be right here. I am still going to be doing this side by side with you until you get more comfortable. You can always come back to me for help. And that's really what the EDGE method is all about. It's helping other people learn how to do something. Whether it's how to give a speech, where you enable a person by showing them, hey, here's your confident communicator manual, here's the speech we're going to be working on. You're going to demonstrate. As their mentor, maybe you're going to give that same speech or at least talk to them about it and walk them through certain scenarios. Then you're going to guide them through it as they write their speech, and then you're going to enable them as they give their speech and give them an evaluation. Whether you're their evaluator or somebody else did the evaluation, and you're following up with them afterwards. Something we all do, but if you're not familiar with training or you're trying to train somebody else to be a trainer, very important thing to keep in mind, the EDGE method. Explain, demonstrate, guide, and enable. Thank you. I didn't hit the red light.